Welcome to A Good Life with Soul Haven, presented by Gregg, Samuel Yisrael, and Natasha, the loving chef.
Welcome to A Good Life at Soul Haven, and we have a very special guest today. We have Natasha, the loving chef, of course. Hello.
Great to be back again, thank you.
And we have, for the first time, for an exclusive, for one night only, Gareth. Hello, Gareth.
Hey, how are you?
Great, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So you've flown in, especially from Spain, for the show today.
Yes, I have.
How are you finding the weather here in Northampton?
Terrible.
I think anywhere in sort of Northern Europe is going to be cold compared to
No, it's not
Spain.
been too bad. It's not been too bad. It's nice to have a bit of rain after not having rain.
There you see, there's a positive, there's a silver lining. There's no shortage of rain here, so enjoy that.
No.
So you're another part of the Soul Haven team, and someone that we don't get to see very often because you're kind of like the Spanish arm of the organisation. Could you sort of introduce yourself to us, and kind of explain what your connection is to everything?
Well, I kind of like work behind the scenes. That's where I normally like to be, so this for me is a little bit uncomfortable. But I'm responsible basically for like the creativity and the product creation and things like that, putting in place systems. And I've been involved with Soul Haven, I guess you could say, right from the beginning. I remember when Samuel and Natasha came to our retreat in Spain, and we sat down around a table and watched them mind map it out to see, you know, what they would like to do at that point in time. It was just like a little dream, but then to see it come to life has been really, really amazing. So I've always been involved in one way or another, but then for the last 4 years have been involved in a more formal role as a director and been more actively involved in it. So that's kind of like my involvement in a nutshell.
So you've been there since the very before it was even born,
Before
from
it was
that
even
idea
born,
stage, and now coming on board as a director, it must be great to be able to get more closely involved with how things are going now. And
no, because Natasha and I have known each other for a long time. I've known Natasha longer than Samuel, if that makes sense. Met her before she met Samuel. So it's, you know, we've always spoken about these kind of things. She was there before I moved to Spain and opened my retreat, and so it's been nice to see it going from something that you just talk about over a coffee to then seeing it written down on paper and seeing it come to life. So it's really nice.
So
like
was
the
it
midwife?
like an idea midwife. So was it something that you would have done yourself if you'd been able to, but your lifestyle and kind of your where you were and everything
we've always had similar dreams. Mine took a different route to do a similar kind of thing with the retreat that I run in Spain with my business partner. But it's nice to be involved in something that goes into kind of like mental health and helping more vulnerable people in a little bit more detail, in a bit more depth, because, you know, I have similar background to Natasha, obviously in a different way. So it's nice to be involved in something where I can go deep, if that makes sense, and help people on a deeper level.
So what are the aspects of it that you're most connected to? What are the things that are your kind of your special area? It's not the music as much for you, is it?
No. For me, it's more about kind of like what goes into the mindset and dealing with the mental health kind of things. So how can I see what people are going through and come up with an idea that we can bring to life? So kind of like the product creation, the systems development, looking at the programs and seeing what kind of resources are needed. So that's kind of like what I'm passionate about, is to give people something tangible that they can work through whilst at the same time dealing with the deeper problems. Yeah.
And it's just getting increasingly relevant, because I think as the world moves on, people's lifestyles change, and
absolutely
mental health it seems to be becoming more of an issue. Maybe it's just we're more aware of it, but I
think because like we live in a day and age where we have the internet and everything is really online based, so you see things a lot quicker, and people they tend to share more if that makes sense. But then, the downside of the internet is that we live in this comparison society. So people are constantly comparing themselves to others, which then affects their self-esteem, which then affects their mental health. But yeah, it is, I think it's a result of the fast-paced world that we live in. People don't take time to stop and work on themselves. It's just go, 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 go. And then if I'm not go, 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 let's say, for example, I compare myself to what Natasha is doing, then my self-esteem is affected and all those kind of things. Yeah.
Well, nobody's going to be as amazing as Natasha, so,
No.
that's not a fair comparison.
Dong, dong, dong.
Okay, well, we're going to be finding out a little bit more about what you do during the show today. Also coming up, we have another gardening update from Natasha, and we're going to be talking about rosemary today, the herb.
Yeah, absolutely. Rosemary is another great herb that comes from the garden. I use it not only in the cooking side of things, but also the spiritual kind of elements of who I am as well. So yeah, and she's in full bloom at the moment. So yeah, something a little bit different for us.
I feel like we should call it a she, because it sounds like it would be female rosemary, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Good old Rosie. And we're going to have some rhythms of nature with Gareth, and then another recipe today. Just to give you a preview, if you're watching this on the camera, we're going to show you what these are and how to make them. It's kind of like chocolate brownies.
Yep, they are. So they're black bean chocolate brownies, all vegan and also refined sugar-free as well.
Black bean.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the secret ingredient.
Well, no, you've blown the secret right at the beginning. But that's great. And as we do the cards today, we're going to talk to the creator of the cards, and we're going to find out the story behind the cards. So I'm really looking forward to that, because the cards have been a big part of the show right the way through every single episode. We're going to delve in a little bit more depth into your beautiful cards and find out a bit more about what they're all about and how they came about. So that's all coming up today here on A Good Life at Soul Haven. So we're going to start off with Natasha, who is going to introduce us to Soul Haven for people that are listening for the first time today.
Yeah, so welcome. And we love to share what Soul Haven's all about. So Soul Haven's based in Malton, just outside Northampton. We offer award-winning community space for people to explore the seasons, but also the seasons and the nature within themselves as well. We offer a wide variety of workshops, events that we do, but also it's a safe space to be heard and for individuals to explore and understand and get to know themselves a lot better. So it's all about building sustainable people along the way.
Fantastic. And obviously we've heard a little bit about kind of the backstory of Soul Haven, so how it came about, and it must have been really cool to just kind of be sat there at a retreat in Spain, just imagining without any limits what you could do, and just kind of sitting down around maybe some Spanish tapas. I've got this great image in my head of how this might have happened, and then coming up with this dream and then going off and making it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good to connect with Gareth, obviously, face to face when he comes across, because that really is a reminder about how it all started. I remember sitting around the dining room table on one of his retreats, blank piece of paper, and it was too big. It was really too scary. I remember drawing like a little house with a few trees, and it was just like, this is mind-blowing how big it can be and things. So yeah, but to watch it little bit by little bit and experiment, but also to go back to that piece of paper, and we've added to it. We've actually gone, oh yeah, we did actually do that, or we're doing that. It's a really good review of how far we all have come with the support of goal setting, dreaming big, getting out of our comfort zones, but also having the support there and almost like pushing us off the edge of the cliff and our wings fly amongst us as we do, because that's where the uncomfortableness comes from, in the uncomfort zone. And when you're in the uncomfort zone, things grow.
Don't be pushing people off cliffs, though. Don't recommend
it's
that.
only a metaphor. Yeah.
You'll quickly
unless you're based.
Yeah.
Yeah, people can't fly. It's first discovery. So, on to Gareth now. So this is the section called All About Gareth. So the first question is, Gareth, who are you?
I'm Gareth.
Yeah, right, let's take that one off the list.
He comes from a very different background, though. He has his own story to share.
Okay, sorry.
As well. Yeah,
let's not gloss over that.
Soul Haven and the good life.
So what are you outside Soul Haven? What's your kind of day-to-day life like?
A bit of a backstory, just in case anyone who's watching is wondering where the accent is from. I was born in Zimbabwe and raised in Zimbabwe and spent most of my life in Zimbabwe. And that was kind of like where I guess you could say most of my life experience came in. So I live with a few mental health challenges. I'm a diagnosed schizophrenic and I live with bipolar disorder. But they are managed and they are under control, and that's been due to a lot of hard work, a lot of personal hard work, a lot of time with therapists and things like that, kind of like just learning to take responsibility. And as a result of my past history with drugs and alcohol and my own mental health challenges, I always wanted to kind of like have a rehab center with a difference. I didn't want it to be like traditional rehab. I wanted it to be like more fun. But I also wanted to one day live in Spain. I don't know why I had this strong connection to live in Spain. It was just always there. My mum used to say to me, well, why do you want to live in Spain? It's like, I don't know, it sounds nice.
Had you never been there?
Nope, never.
Wow.
I only left Africa for the first time when I was 33. So I'd never been out of Africa. And one of my first trips out of Africa was to move to London.
And how old are you now, if you don't mind? I'm just trying to get this into context.
I'll be 52 this year.
Okay, so this is like 19 years ago.
Yeah,
was when the
journey
started.
really began. I moved to London predominantly because I wanted to have more access to things that could help me. In Zimbabwe, things were really behind, if that makes sense. It was in the days of like where you had dial-up internet to download your emails. When I moved to London, I didn't know how to use the internet, but I knew that you could go to a bookstore and buy books, if that made sense. Whereas in Zimbabwe, it would take you months at that point in time to save to buy a book because they were so expensive. So, I moved to London for my own personal development and just to kind of like maybe take a step to like what Natasha was saying towards that big dream of, could someone like me live in Spain?
But I think it's great that you arrived in London really valuing knowledge and books and learning in a way that a lot of people take it for granted. Yeah. So I guess you had a real thirst for
I just wanted to, it's not that I wasn't better, I'm going to use the word better, when I left Zimbabwe. I just wanted to be better. I wanted to be able to deal with my mental health more. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to understand myself more. And I knew that, I couldn't at that point in time do that in Zimbabwe because there just wasn't access to what you can get. I mean, I remember walking into a bookstore for the first time and it was like, holy I didn't realize that you could get so many books. It sounds silly, but you coming from a third world country, you don't have access to that kind of stuff. You don't switch on a computer and it's immediately connected to the internet. I mean, times have changed now back there. But coming here, I was like a kid in a candy shop. It's like, wow, which book do I buy first?
I think in a lot of ways it's gone back the other way, though, because I think a lot of kids don't go in bookshops that often and maybe aren't that really aware of how many different books there are and the range of things. You can find a book about anything. And you go into Waterstones or somewhere and it is a bit mind-blowing because you literally... you just don't know where to start. No. There's so much choice, and especially with kids' books. My little boys love it because they want to buy every single book. There's
just something magical about a book.
Yeah, I love books. Okay, so obviously you've arrived in London. What happened
what's the next step then? I learned that there were all these kind of like personal development events that you could go to. A lot of them, were free, and obviously to promote further services and all that. But I went to these events, and at one of the events I met my business partner, who is, besides Natasha, who is my best friend. He's like a brother, and we were both very different from a personal point of view. He was very focused on exercise and looking good, where I was focused on health from the inside. To me, he was not the type of person that I would ever choose to be friends with, because he was so physically different. Reminded me a lot of bullies from a younger age and all that. But I just thought, well, I have the opportunity to speak to someone like this. I probably will never see him again in my life. And when we sat down and spoke, we had so much in common. And it was like, wow.
So like opposites attract.
Yeah. He was from a different part of the world. He's from Holland originally. But we were dealing with almost like a similar sort of problem. And it was, as we had that initial connection and started spending time together, I also learned that he also wanted to live in Spain. He also wanted to have a retreat where, it would be kind of like rehab, but more physical. So we had like a lot in common. We started our business together in London. And because we both had like this dream to move to Spain, it just made sense. It's like, okay, well, let's work towards that. And as a team and as a family, being far away from my family in Zimbabwe, it was like my chosen family. We still are very close. We still do things together as a family. And then it just so happened we had the opportunity to move to Spain, and here we are now.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we've probably fast forwarded a lot of the process there. Yeah, but no, that's amazing. And I guess that's one of the advantages you have when you come here from another country and you don't have any ties, that really the world is your oyster, and you can just start with a blank canvas and just say, yeah, why not? Let's move to Spain.
Oh, it's crazy because, just for an example, like for me to buy a one-way ticket when I moved to London, I had to sell everything that I owned just to buy a one-way ticket. And I remember, sitting in London and booking my first flight to Barcelona online, and it cost me less than £100, and I just burst out crying because, before, to book a holiday it would take you months or years of saving, whereas here I'd sat for 5 minutes on the BA website and booked a holiday to Barcelona. I was like, wow.
Then you discovered EasyJet.
Yeah.
But yeah, you won't get much hand luggage, but no. It's ridiculously cheap.
But it makes the world seems like such a big place, but it makes the world a lot smaller. And it just,
I think we are so fortunate in this country with just things like being able to just jump on a plane, and it costs like a day's wages probably to get wherever you want in the world. And a lot of people around the world, they don't have that opportunity to just travel and explore. And it's remarkable that you've done what you did and kind of thought, was there something in Zimbabwe that made you think there must be more to life than this? I want to spread my wings, or what was kind of pulling you this way?
I think you can edit things, can't you?
It's kind of live, but yeah, go on.
No, I think like the reality of it is because of my past, because of my history with drugs and alcohol and self-harming, I tried to take matters into my own hands.
Okay.
And I'll leave that for people to do with it what they may. But when I woke up from my last attempt to take matters into my own hands, I remember, and it makes me emotional to talk about it, because as hard as it was, I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't taken matters into my own hands. But I remember lying in a hospital bed and saying, well, there must be something out there. If whatever it is out there has saved my life. There must be something more. This can't just be what it is. And that kind of like was what was the tipping point for me. It's like, okay, I've tried to take matters into my own hands. I've failed. How am I going to make the most of this second chance that I've been given? Because by medical, by the doctors and all that, I shouldn't be alive today. But I am. So if I am, that must mean that there's something out there for me. And that kind of like was my tipping point, my driving point. I remember lying in the hospital bed and I said, Ron, if there is a God out there, or if there is something out there, if I'm still alive by my 40th birthday and I'm happy and I'm healthy, I will give up everything and commit my life to helping other people. I remember turning 40, and 4 months later, my business partner and I opened our own retreat. And since then, it's kind of like, yeah, I've been given a second chance. How can I make the most of it?
I think it's so inspiring, actually, that you've gone from literally rock bottom to just taking that step to have a fresh start and just I think sometimes you've got to reach that point to open your mind to how different things
like
could be.
It's and like I say, it makes me emotional to talk about it, but it's because I'm so grateful. Like, I shouldn't be alive today, but I am. And I think, for me, so many of us, myself, before that point in time, take our lives for granted, and it's just, sometimes it's good for me to do things like that because it makes me realize, but I don't see it as inspiring, if that makes sense, because I've just done what I had to do. But it's also nice to hear that people find it inspiring, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think everybody has their own issues that they're dealing with, and for a lot of people it isn't as dramatic and
It is like, it's like that's why I love Soul Haven so much, because it is all about the garden and nature. It's like everyone has their own garden. What they do with it, what they plant in it, what they choose to leave in it is up to them. I have a garden, so it's like, okay, well, how am I going to make it as pretty as possible?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on to Natasha next and find out what's happening in her more literal garden, because it's still spring. We were talking a bit last time about some of the everyday things that you have in the garden, like dandelions, and how you can actually appreciate them and use them in so many different ways. And we're going to talk about what's going on in the garden and all of the beautiful things that are happening now that the weather's hopefully getting a bit nicer.
Excellent. And it is. The garden has really become alive with the sunshine that we've had, but also obviously it's been very blessed with some beautiful rain and rainfall, which we so desperately needed in the garden. We actually worked it out. I think it's 2 months without any rain.
Have we?
Yeah.
Wow.
2 months, no rain.
I'm shocked by that, but it does make sense.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're making up for it now with 3 or 4 days rain, but the garden has absolutely exploded with lots of different colours, lots of different plants becoming back alive again. The seedlings are seeding really well, and of course then we've got the beautiful sunshine that gives the heat. So everything is growing really fast at the moment. We had one group of people putting little flower seedlings, and they normally take about 2 weeks. 3 days later, we've got little seedlings that are like 1 inch high.
Wow.
And it's just like, oh, okay. So yeah, it grows. So it really just proved that nature plays a part in everything that grows in the garden along the way. And we've got hundreds of seedlings right now, hundreds of them. But things like beetroot's coming along really well. Beetroot's another firm favourite of mine. But yeah, beetroot, spinach, gosh, the garlic and the onions. We've harvested leeks, which were really good for the kitchen. Gosh, what else? Cabbages coming along. We've got lettuces now. So I made my first salad of the year with fresh
Wow.
lettuce from the garden.
Because I think people don't always realise this, if you're not a gardener, that stuff becomes ready to pick all the way through the growing season. You're not just planting seeds at the moment, you are actually harvesting some stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm harvesting spinach that was actually planted last August because we're very grateful for a polytunnel. It's been kept over the winter time, so that's been our greens all the way through winter time, and that's just shot up. And yes, a few things have bolted, but we love the fact that the plants bolt, because then we let them flower and we let them go to seed, and then that's our seeds ready for our next crop along the way. So it really is a whole ecosystem. Whereas when we first started, plants that bolted, I just pulled them out and threw them away and didn't know any better. And it's just like, hold on a minute, there's a whole cycle that I need to get on top of here. So yeah, so one spinach plant gives us thousands of seeds along the way. So yeah, it's all good, it's all exciting.
Yeah.
The lawn is growing far too fast. The dandelions are still there, which I'm really happy about.
Oh yeah, we just cut the grass last weekend and it's already like inches long. It's irritating, but yeah, it just shows how much everything's suddenly springing into life.
Definitely. And I want to share, like one of my favourite things is rosemary. Now, rosemary, let me take it to the camera. Hopefully you can see that.
That's beautiful.
And it only flowers once a year.
I've not seen it with flowers on before, because normally when you buy it in the supermarket as a herb, it's not flowering.
It's not flowering at all.
And
it's really, really pretty. I use the flowers a lot in decorations in the kitchen, but rosemary has
Do the flowers smell like rosemary?
I think so. Yes.
It's hard to tell. You've got to get it all over your fingers
have
now.
A smell.
Hang on, I'll have a smell.
Yeah, have a smell. Yeah, they do. They taste like rosemary as well. So yeah, so that gives it a unique flavour towards the cuisine that we do in the kitchen and the kitchen area. But
making me want a roast lamb. Is that bad?
You can't say things like that. Although it's very sweet, because we're very blessed at Solhaven, so we're on the edge of a farm. So we look over 80 acres of site. And the farmer has little lambs in the field right now.
Oh.
So we wake up to the bleating of little sheep, little lambs, and they're doing their spring lamb thing, running around the fields and just enjoying the world.
They're a lot cuter when they're alive.
Yeah, they are a lot cuter when they are alive. But it, just even seeing the lambs in the fields brings the smiles to our faces. Because it's just something so magical about the cute little lambs that go on.
So cute. They're probably the cutest farmyard animal, because you just want to cuddle them, because they just look all soft and woolly and cute. So yeah.
Yeah, we enjoy our little neighbours. 4,000 sheep at Solhaven and 4,000 little lambs going on there.
So what are some of the things that you can do with your rosemary?
So rosemary has many different qualities for us. Excuse me. It's good for your mental health and your cognitive health. It helps with memory and focus. So if I am having a real busy day on my laptop and I get distracted and I'm out of my comfort zones and I distract everything else in my world apart from what I'm meant to be doing on the laptop, I actually drink rosemary tea because it brings focus and clarity. It almost takes away the brain fog, and it's just like, okay, let's set my timer, 20 minutes, rosemary tea, let's get it done. And it's never as big as what it normally is, or I think it is along the way. So yeah, so rosemary.
I think that's such a great idea, because sometimes when you feel like you've been working for half an hour and you haven't really achieved anything, just taking a break, doing something like drinking some tea that's just going to reset your head, suddenly you're a lot more productive and you get more of a feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah, definitely. And rosemary helps for lots of different things as well. Stress, anxiety, actually just smelling rosemary almost makes you feel grounded again along that way. So yeah, so that's how it helps on your mood and how it helps in your mental. It also helps with your immune system, anti-inflammatory. So rosemary, many different forms, whether it's in a stew and a soup and a casserole, or whether you sprinkle it over your roast potatoes. It helps with the inflammation in the body, and it can also help if you suffer from asthma, hay fever. I'll add in there as well.
Can it help with headaches? Because I think when you take ibuprofen, that's an anti-inflammatory, and it shrinks the blood vessels that give you a headache in your head. So.
Headaches, rosemary is really good for headaches. Yeah. And it's all there for us. It's all really natural.
Yeah,
and
it's much
just
better.
have a, even if you don't have a garden, you can do a whole windowsill full of your herbs and just literally cut hot water there. All of a sudden you've got rosemary tea for it.
And just sniffing them when you walk past, just having a chance to just stick your nose in the middle of the rosemary and just have a moment. That would be really nice.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. I have a whole list. I'm not going to go through the whole list today because there's a lot to talk about rosemary. But it helps your digestive system and your physical health as well. So rosemary stimulates the production of bile, aiding digestion. It helps break down fats. It helps ease bloatingness, gas, and indigestion. Obviously, it helps with headaches that we've discussed and joint pain as well. So especially arthritis. So when I was waiting for my hip replacement, I drank quite a lot of rosemary tea. But I also boiled the rosemary. Well, I didn't boil. I stooped shea butter, melted it, added in rosemary, cooled it down, and I actually put that on my hip joints, and that actually helped me. I can't say that word. No idea.
But it's tried and tested.
But it's tried and tested. Yes, definitely. Another thing on the list is skin and hair. Rosemary is really good as an anti-inflammatory, treats acne. So I will confess, I've eaten a lot of chocolate over Easter.
That's what Easter's for, though.
Oh, well, yeah, Easter is for it. But my skin doesn't like it. My skin really doesn't like the sugar content of the sugar. So all of this is because I've had too much sugar. So I'm now drinking rosemary tea, which calms down all my face again.
Do you know what we had on holiday with the kids? We went in a fish and chip shop, and they said, "Would you like a battered cream egg for Easter?" And
Please tell me you didn't have them. You did.
But we decided the cream egg was better, not battered in the end.
I remember fish and chip shops used to batter Mars bars.
Yeah, it was that sort of idea.
Yeah.
Oh, no. But it tasted kind of like donuts, but with a cream egg in the middle. But it was just too much.
Too much.
So that would give you acne.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What else? On a spiritual and energetic, so I've mentioned that rosemary is a very spiritual plant. It cleanses, so you can dry it. So you could bundle up a few bundles or a few sprigs of rosemary, bundle it up, dry it in your airing cupboard or on top of a radiator. And it's something like smudging. So you can then light it and burn it, and it cleanses your area energetically as well. So, like if you go into someone's house and you feel quite dense is you're tired, you start yawning, you don't want to be there, or I need to get out of this dense area.
Yeah.
Or if you've had somebody come to your house and you think, oh, thank goodness they've gone, let's just clean their energy around. Burn rosemary. It's just as good as sage, but it cleans it all out.
Clears the air.
Clears the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely clears the air. But it also offers protection as well. So on a spiritual level, we all have energy, we all have vibrations. As we all interact here on the radio station, we all become interconnected energetically, or the aura and things. And then if certain people leave, so I do a lot of clearing in the house because obviously many people come and go in the community space. But it cleans it, but it also protects from me taking on somebody else's energy.
Yeah. So
part of a pattern that I play, I like to remove people's pain, but then I sometimes take it on myself. So it's a protection of, okay, I'll just burn a little rosemary, and then that cleans that all up. And I'm back to wholesomeness of myself again. So what we do with our own energies is quite important to how we feel.
I think it's important to have those sort of rituals and ways of just kind of clearing your head and having a bit of closure and moving on to the next thing when you've been with somebody who's a bit draining and you're helping them with their problems, but you feel like it's just sapping your energy and you're giving them a lot and you're left with they're feeling great as they walk out.
Yeah.
You're just under their cloud.
Yeah, it's almost like they've stuck a straw inside of us and sucked us dry of our own positivity and energy. They're filled up and we're totally depleted and our cup is empty again. So yeah, so rosemary's good for protection.
Good old rosemary.
Yeah.
Fabulous. So what are a few different ways of using rosemary?
Great question. So I've mentioned about tea, literally boiled water, sprig of fresh rosemary in it, cool it down and then sip it. Another way is also essential oils. Now again, you can use any good quality oil, whether that's olive oil, shea butter, coconut oil, melt it down, infuse it with the fresh rosemary, and let it reset again, and then that can be used. Soups, obviously, in the kitchen, it's great, it's grounding in all different areas along there. And then if you take baths or have baths, just literally pop a few fresh sprigs into your bath and let that infuse in the hot water before you go into your bath.
That
Many
would smell
different
amazing,
ways.
wouldn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And it's good for your hair as well. It's really good for so for those of you who may be losing your hair a little bit or going a little bit bald, wash your hair with rosemary or rinse it with a rosemary water, and it'll help regrow your hair again little by little over a course of time.
See, this is all great ideas, but I kind of feel like I'd be tempted to use the bath water as a kind of rosemary soup afterwards. But you shouldn't do that. No. Not a good idea. Thank you so much.
That's a pleasure.
We've discovered a new love for rosemary.
Yes.
Have an affair with rosemary.
Have an affair with the beautiful rosemary.
Okay, it's Gareth's turn again now, and we're going to be exploring the rhythms of nature and us together with Gareth. And I'm quite interested to hear your take on this sort of thing, because we talk a lot about permaculture and nature and stuff, and Samuel is brilliant talking about that. But I think we're going to have a different kind of Zimbabwean Spanish perspective now on the rhythms of nature. So what have you got for us?
I think, like what Natasha was saying about the gardens coming alive and all that sort of stuff, I like to like I said when I was talking earlier, like my life is a garden, and we can learn so much from nature, from the principles of permaculture. And one of my favorite ones is kind of like permaculture principle number 7, which is all about designing from patterns to details. But through looking at nature, there is so much that we can learn and so much that we can observe about ourselves. Nature is constantly changing. The garden is constantly growing. Sometimes we can just let it run wild, and it does its own thing with no kind of like care and attention from us. But when we start to put a little bit of care and attention into the garden, into our surroundings, it starts to look more, I'm just going to do that, it starts to look more beautiful. And it's the same with ourselves. A lot of time we just let ourselves run wild. We don't pay any attention to what is going on within us. But when we start to put a little bit of care and start to pay a little bit of attention to ourselves, we naturally grow. Just like plants naturally grow, we naturally grow. But when we put that attention and care into it, we realize that growth is a process. We cannot force ourselves to grow, if that makes sense. We can't continually push ourselves. But when we water the garden a little bit every day, it blossoms. But then what we also learn from nature is that it goes through cycles. Plants aren't flowering all the time, but I put pressure on myself to flower all the time. I can't. I'm not born. A plant is not born to produce flowers all the time, but we put pressure on it. We put pressure on ourselves to be constantly go. We need to kind of like take a step back. What's that saying? Like, we can't see the tree for the woods, or how does it go?
For the trees.
Can't see the wood for the trees.
We can't see the wood for the trees. We're so often kind of like forcing ourselves to kind of like look at the whole forest when we actually need to take a step back and realize that the forest started with one tree. but a tree started as a seedling, which started as maybe a pine cone before. So there's these constant cycles where we need to kind of like step back and look at things in a different light.
And it does take a long time for it to turn into a big tree.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I find really interesting is with a lot of stuff in the garden, to get it to grow, you've got to prune it. So you've got to cut it back to get it to then grow. And it's about what you take away as much as what's there.
Yeah, we don't, and it's like pruning. In life, we need to let things go. Maybe we have habits that don't serve us, or maybe we have behaviors that are less than positive. We need pruning every now and then. It's up to us to prune, but sometimes, we need to rely on the feedback of others to maybe make us take a look and say, well, maybe I need to get rid of this, or maybe I need to get rid of that. But it's like you say, things need to be pruned back. It doesn't have to be painful.
No, absolutely. So it's about recognizing those rhythms, those patterns, those kind of circuits in nature, and not feeling like you have to be in the flowering stage the whole time, and also not being afraid of change, I guess, is very important.
Yeah, I have every morning back in Spain, I wake up in the morning, obviously, and I take my dog out for a walk. I live just next to, we call it the campo, which is like the countryside. So I go down into the countryside, and I have 2 trees. I have an almond tree. They're not mine, but I claim them as my own. There's an almond tree and an olive tree. And the almond tree is called Alex, and the olive tree is called Olivia. And every morning, it sounds crazy, but I go and I hug the trees, and I say good morning to the trees. Why? Because it grounds me, but also because they're a constant reminder of change. Olive trees never change, if that makes sense. Yes, they grow the olives, but they don't really flower. Almond trees, they will blossom. They've just blossomed in February. They're absolutely amazing, but the blossoms are only there for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they're gone. And then the leaves start to grow, and then the almonds start to come out. And then when autumn comes, it looks like a dead tree. And it's like a reminder for me that there are things in my life that are constant and steady, like a tree, but they also go through change, and it also goes through cycles. So for me, every day when I go into nature and I see my 2 trees, it's kind of like just a reminder. It's like, I'm there. I need to stay strong. I need to stay grounded. But it also doesn't matter when I lose my flowers, because I know that they'll come back, so to speak.
I think a lot of people have got trees that they see every day, even in a city.
But they probably don't notice them.
Well, yeah, maybe. I'm noticing the trees.
But when I say notice them, they don't stop to actively notice them.
Yeah,
because it's just a tree.
But you're right; they change.
Yeah,
and seeing how they change throughout the year and the passing of the seasons, it's crazy
because even along the road where we live, every year they prune it. We were talking about pruning. They prune the trees back so that they literally look like this tree trunk with little knobbles on. But then it's amazing how fast they start growing again, and within a few months you have this whole huge big tree again. And then come the next winter, they prune them back. And the first time I saw it, I was like, what are they doing? They're like destroying the trees. But it was amazing. But we don't actively stop to notice them.
Do you know what I think is really cool as well? Is that the tree isn't the branches and the leaves. It's a life form. Yeah. And whatever you chop off it, hopefully it will come back and it will grow new branches and leaves. Yeah. And the tree is so much more than the bit that you see. It's
like with some of the stuff that we do with Ploughing the Mind. The tree is a really important part of the program, where we look at our lives as trees, where we look at the trunk and what the branches represent and all that sort of stuff. But it's kind of like looking at the patterns of nature and seeing what we can learn from them and how we can apply them to ourselves.
And I think also what you're saying about your routine and spending some time in nature, it's a great way of getting some moments of calm in your life and finding that clarity. And what are some of the ways that you can spend the time that you are in that kind of environment in a way that's going to help your mental health?
I think that there are a few things that I do, like especially during the warmer months when I go for a walk, I will take my shoes off and just walk barefoot. You know, I obviously can't walk barefoot everywhere because, you know, it can be a bit uncomfortable with all that sort of stuff. But just, you know, putting your feet, even if it's on, you know, the hot ground, it just brings you back into the moment. There's another practice that I do. It's called visual awareness. It's kind of like mindfulness in motion, where I will set my attention, an intention for the day, and I will stop and just take one photograph of something that catches my attention. But it's not about taking the perfect photograph. It's about taking a photograph of something as you see it in the moment. And what it does is it just makes you more aware of your surroundings, more aware of what's going on around you, and it helps you to see the beauty in the small things, which is a great stress reliever because, you know, like what Natasha was talking about earlier with the rosemary and how when we get overwhelmed, we can't see everything. But when we start to look for the beauty in the small things, it makes us appreciate the bigger things so much more. So those are kind of like just two of my daily practices, come rain or no rain.
I think, yeah, you're right. Whatever the weather, sometimes it's nice to be under some trees while it's raining and you can just see the little...
Because I have to take my dog for a walk.
Dogs are great, though. Dogs get you out. They're really good. I recommend dogs. Yeah. Yes, more than children. Yeah, they're a bit more obedient sometimes. So yes, there's lots and lots of stuff to talk about in terms of...
Oh, we could go on for ages.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things about nature and the garden is the way that it flourishes when we're helping it to flourish. It doesn't do this stuff on its own. It will quite happily just become overgrown and create some sort of wildflower meadow. But to really get it to look the way that we think looks beautiful, it needs that nourishing and that attention. And I think community and support are so important for people as well, aren't they?
It is. It's, you know, you can have a pot plant with one plant in it, but it looks a little bit isolated. You can have a garden with one plant in it, but it looks a little bit, don't like to use the word, it looks a little bit boring. But when you start to bring together different plants and combine them in unique ways, they start to be really beautiful. And that's just like community. Each of us brings something unique and individual to the community that we are within. You know, community is, for me, is just two or more people, you know, and we can support each other and we can grow together, just like things happen in the garden. I know, like when I walk around Solhaven, it's really nice for me to be reconnected with it because you have all the different herbs growing together. They all have different purposes, they all have different benefits, but they all thrive together and grow together. And I think for us as human plants, we thrive from a strong community and that kind of support.
Cool. So this all kind of feeds back into permaculture principle number 7, which is design from patterns to details.
Yes.
So can you kind of bring it all together, all of those things that we've been talking about, and how we can apply that principle to our lives?
I think the big thing for me, if I apply that principle to my life or give someone some advice, is kind of like to step back and look at the bigger picture and see how you form a unique part of it. Because that will help you to kind of like stop, be more in the moment, focus on yourself and see what you bring to the table.
You're listening to A Good Life at Soulhaven, and it's time now for our recipe of the week. And back over to Natasha, the loving chef. And I always like it when this is very much a tangible recipe because I can see what we're going to be creating here. If you're watching the video of the podcast, your mouth is going to be watering as much as mine. You might hear me trying to trying to speak while salivating here because we've got these beautiful chocolate brownies that are dropping little nuts all over the studio here. So tell me about these.
So these are delicious. They are amazing. So I was challenged. Brownies is one of my chocolatey things, that one of my firm favourites, but obviously I was challenged to make it without refined sugar. I was challenged to make it vegan, so no eggs, no dairy in it at all, and also gluten-free as well. So this is a recipe that was created through trial and error, experimental. I didn't get it right the first time, I have to say, but that's the way it works in the kitchen sometimes. So yeah, so black bean chocolate brownies. They make a wonderful dessert, they make a wonderful snack, a little pick-me-up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that's not going to keep your blood sugars rushing.
And a secret ingredient as well with the black beans.
Black beans.
What possessed you to add black beans? What are black beans?
So black beans is from the legume family. You can buy them ready cooked in a tin, or you can buy them dried, and obviously if you buy them dried they need to be soaked and then boiled for about 45 minutes until they're cooked. But it's really easy. You just drain your tin of black beans, or you've got your cooked black beans, drain them off, rinse them off, pop them in a blender to mush them all up. Technical term coming, mush them all up. Mush them all up, blend them to a smooth consistency, and then add in there, you can add in there gluten-free flour. If you don't want to use gluten-free flour, then you can use something like almond meal or coconut flour instead. You've got plant-based milk. Now, I sweeten these with maple syrup. But if you haven't got maple syrup, agave syrup, or if you're not a vegan, then obviously honey is also good in there as well. Cocoa powder, not a hot chocolate drinking powder, because that's got milk in it and sugar in it.
So there's a difference.
There is a difference. Baking powder. Now, I say walnuts, but it can be any sort of nut. So the ones we've got today is actually with hazelnuts, because the good combo of chocolate and hazelnut works well together. What else? A little pinch of salt. So you combine all of these ingredients into a bowl, and then for your wet ingredients, you melt some chocolate, dark chocolate, and you add melted coconut oil in there, and mix it all up. Literally, it's a really simple recipe that tastes so good. Pop it into your baking tin and bake it for about 30 minutes on 190 degrees. And that is as simple as it gets. So yeah, so you can find the recipe on the Facebook, on the Loving Chef, Natasha the Loving Chef Facebook page. Obviously it'll be in the blog as well. But they are amazing. You can freeze them, you can eat them straight out of the oven, you can eat them cold, have some ice cream with it.
I think we just need to eat them. Can I try
Please,
it?
yeah,
Right,
go for it.
let me see.
No allergies, do you?
No.
Oh, thank goodness for that, as he
Too
takes
late
a
if I do.
mouthful.
Abrupt end to the show.
Yeah. Oopsie daisies.
These are nice.
And you wouldn't ever know that it's got black bean in it.
You wouldn't.
No.
And the thing with brownies sometimes is they sort of cloy. They're hard to eat. And they're very sticky.
Yeah.
But these feel a bit more juicy and a bit more fruity than you normally get with a brownie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you can taste the consistency from all those ingredients, but they're very, very chocolatey, which is great.
Yes, good. I'm glad you like them. But yeah, have a go with it and play with the recipe as well. Like I say, different nuts, different flours, different amounts of the sweetener that you put in. Now, obviously, if you're diabetic, you can use xylitol in there instead of the honey or the maple syrup in there, so it's more compatible with your dietary requirements if you're diabetic. But yeah, have a play. A little pinch of salt gives it a different taste as well, because salt actually brings out the flavour of the cocoa in there and the chocolate in there as well. So yeah,
I do like a nice salty caramel, salty chocolate. That's good. Yeah.
Chocolate. Yeah. All things great.
These get my seal of approval.
Yes,
definitely.
Mission accomplished.
Recommend these. Very, very yummy. And yeah, as Natasha says, you can find the recipe on your Facebook page.
On Natasha the Loving Chef Facebook page.
Fabulous. Okay, you're listening to A Good Life at Soul Haven, and it's time now for our cards of the week. And we have a special edition of this week because we have the creator of the cards with us in the studio. Gareth, tell me the story behind the cards. How did they happen?
Well, the story behind the cards is it's a deeply personal one, like with everything that I do. And like, I've spoken about before, it's about kind of like taking your challenges and turning them into something beautiful. So some years ago, it's about 10 years ago now, my mom, who I was living in Spain at the time, my mom was living in Zimbabwe, and she got ill. She was diagnosed with cancer, and she passed away within 10 days of the diagnosis. And because of the kind of like challenges that I have with my mental health, sometimes I find it a little bit difficult to deal with all the emotions that go on inside my head and inside my body. So one of the things that I do is I journal every day, because it kind of like helps me to deal with things. But sometimes when you're going through a difficult period, it is, I guess you could say, it's difficult to journal. It's difficult to write what's going on. So what I started to do was I started to doodle. Now, I don't call myself an artist. I failed art at school, so I never saw myself as a creative person. But I kind of like gave myself permission to just draw and color whatever came up. So they were created. The pictures that you see on the cards are all hand drawn, and they're all hand colored. But when I made them, I never had an intention to use them for anything, if that makes sense. But I also kept the journal that I had, that I did make handwritten notes with the pictures. And then, when I started working more with Natasha and with Soul Haven, I came up with the idea of kind of like finding a way to use the images to create some form of cards. So I went through all my notes, and with each picture was kind of like the lesson that I got from the emotions that were going on at the time. So they were, they're my personal doodles through a very difficult time. That kind of like, that's the story behind it.
I'm so sorry to hear about your mum, and it must be difficult to look at some of the cards that are bringing back that raw emotion, that the moment that you created those those doodles.
For me, when I look at the cards, yes, I'm reminded of that time. But like I was saying, it's like, how can I take my challenges and turn it into something nice or something beautiful that can help other people. So for me, they're deeply personal, but they're also a reminder. My mom was a very strong woman, very strong, independent woman, and she didn't, she didn't like to wallow, if that makes sense. So she would say like, come on, Gareth, snap out of it, let's do something with this. And so it's also, it's kind of like a tribute. They're a tribute to my mom.
Yeah. No, that's lovely. So what was your intention when you made the cards for how people would use them? Because I know how we've been using them on the show.
I think they can be used in a number of different ways. So I wanted people to choose them, to kind of like have an intention, to set an intention. But they also give people an opportunity, like I say to some people, or like I say to people, pick a card, focus on the word and journal about it. It's like, well, how are you going to apply that in your life? How are you going to create your own definition of whatever it is? Use it as a form of meditation. So look at the word, either meditate on the word, or look at the colors. Look at the colors and look at the images. It's not just about the word that's on the card. It's about the colors and the images. How do those colors make you feel? In neuro-linguistic programming, which is kind of like a tool that people help to reframe things and change their thoughts and processes. You have something that is called an anchor, and an anchor is something that you can create by associating certain mental states to colors and images. So I, recommend to people to look at the colors and look at the images, so that when they think of those colors and images, they can be reminded of either the intention that's on the card or their mental state that they would like to be in. So there's a number of different ways that you can use them. At home, I have my own deck of cards, and I pick one main card at the beginning of the month, and that's kind of like my focus for the month. But then I pick cards daily. And also, when you are having a moment of overwhelm during the day, just take a step back, shuffle the cards, pick a card. It just brings you back into the moment and gives you something pretty to look at and focus on.
Fabulous. Well, I think this is a good moment to pick a card for the week. Shall we grab the deck? So you've got them here. I think you should pick the card for us this week as our special guest.
I get nervous when I pick the cards, just in case.
Right. See which one you're drawn to.
I'll take this one.
Yeah. So what have we got? You have to show us. Oh, patience.
Oof.
And I think knowing the story behind the artwork, it kind of gives it a whole different dimension. And it kind of looks like almost like an octopus tentacles wrapped around in.
It's
in a
kind of
circle.
like I remember when I was drawing that card, and I was getting really, really frustrated, and it felt like everything was tangled up. So you can see there's lots of different circles that are all joined together, and sometimes it takes a little bit of patience to address your problems, to address your challenges, because it can feel like they're going in so many different paths and so many different directions that sometimes we just need a little patience and a little bit of time to deal with things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in anything in life, it's how you deal with the challenges that come along. And a lot of the time, if you give it a bit of space, things look less bleak when you've waited an hour or two, and then you deal with it when you come back to something.
It's like what we were talking about earlier about the tree in the woods and that sort of stuff. Sometimes it takes patience to step back. It takes patience to stop, especially when you're going through a challenging time.
I think the immediate for me, I like to get everything sorted quickly because I want it gone. I don't want this whatever.
Remember
it is.
Your garden, Chris. It doesn't grow just like that.
No, so it's about taking your time and just knowing that not everything needs to be instantly solved. And sometimes if you let it breathe, you can find a better way of resolving the situation. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good analogy of it all as well. And it's patience, like Gareth says. Nothing grows overnight. We can't change overnight. It does take patience to experiment. So if you're trying to change something from within, 9 times out of 10 we don't get it right the first time. And sometimes that brings up the failure program that we have inside of us, and we say, well, I've tried it once, it's never going to work. But actually having patience to do it again and again and again. The light bulb was never invented after one try. He took over 1,000 times to have a try to create the light bulb, and that's exactly inside of us as well, as we're dealing with our own emotions or trying something new. And we will get tested with patience, but quite a lot along the way. But yeah, give it time and space. But also a question that comes to me is, why do we get so angry when things aren't done so quickly? In a modern world, you can go, let's just take, you can order something and it'd be with you the next day. Amazon, you've got all the fast foods. Why do we get so impatient if our fast food takes more than 3 minutes? What are our expectations with things? But why sincerely do we get angry when something doesn't come up to our expectations? And having the patience for things just to allow to be in one with nature. Nature doesn't do something so fast, it takes over a course of time. So allow patience just to come in.
I think it's that phrase of don't waste my time, that you get stuck in your head and you kind of feel like, oh, my time is being wasted here waiting for Ronald to finish putting my hamburger together. But really, it's enjoy that moment. Enjoy having a moment of just standing there and not doing something.
Yeah. Just take a moment just to deep breathe. When was the last time you took a deep breath in and deep breath out? And just allow yourselves to be in that moment instead of being rush all the time. Life is too busy. Be the garden that you are. Slow and steady.
Slow and steady.
Yeah.
Thank you, Natasha. Well, thank you so much for joining us this time, Gareth. It's been amazing having you here, and
thank you for having me.
Really insightful, and just thank you for sharing so much of your story. It's been really, really interesting.
Thank you.
And yeah, brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, so what are we going to have on the next episode of A Good Life at Soulhaven?
Oh, well, Samuel's going to be back with us, so that's going to be great. We're going to be talking about permaculture principle number 11, which is use the edges and value the marginal. Paying attention to the spaces that are often overlooked, because that's where the magic happens. I'm sure Samuel will bring some sort of music instrument with him along the way, and of course there will be a recipe from my good self along the way as well. Yeah.
Fabulous. So thank you so much for joining us today. Have a safe journey back to Spain.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you again at some point in the future. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.